Nubook 2, A Journey to Real Freedom, Part 10. "Hello, Duane," he said, as he stood there over me, all aglow. "I can see you like it here more than you like the earth." I stood up immediately, so that I could see him better. "Yes, sir, this place is great," I said, wondering who he was, as a feeling of something was coming over me that was familiar. I stared at him and wondered who he was, trying to remember. "Do you have any idea where we are, sir?" I asked. He laughed briefly and said, "You are somewhere and everywhere." At first, I didn't have a single word that came to mind to reply to him. What did he say? "Really?" I said, as I seemed to blurt out a reply. That's all I could think of. I don't know if it made sense or not. He looked at me and smiled, and then said, "This place is known as the second level, the first heaven of man." Okay, I thought. What does that mean? "You are from the earth, Duane. The earth and all the worlds in the physical realm are the first level, or the solid life. In this world, you are not as solid. Let me show you," he said, as he began to rise above the ground, and then stopped about 10 feet up in the air. "Wow!" I said out loud. "I knew this place was magical." "It's even more than that, young friend," he said, as he came slowly back down to the ground with a big grin. "Would you like to fly like those birds?" he asked, as he motioned to the sky with his graceful mannerism. I hesitated for a moment as he stood there, waiting for my answer. It was almost hard for me to understand what was taking place at this very moment. Here I was, in this strange world that was so simple, yet hidden from my view was something very unexplainable. This hidden something was continuous, without limits. This great being stood in a beautiful silence, with the utmost patience, as I considered what he was asking me. I wanted to find out what he meant. "Yes, sir, I would," I said, as I felt the soft ocean breeze touching my face and blowing across the glistening sea of light. "Just do it," he said, as he once again left the ground and went very high up into the sky. As I watched him in amazement, I looked straight up at him and felt a wonderful feeling surge through myself. Mum had read me the story of Peter Pan, the boy who could fly, which I always dreamed about. At that very moment I knew that I was Peter Pan, and I could fly as he did in the story. "Here I come, like Peter Pan," I said, as I leapt from the ground, and suddenly found myself flying straight up. "I am doing it, I really am," I said, as I joined him in the air. He laughed faintly, and then motioned for me to follow him. He led me around the huge island where we met, explaining what this place was all about. We flew gracefully together as the wind passed my being. "Look at the formation of the land, and how it meets the sea from so many different sides," he said, as he pointed all around. "This is really a great place, sir," I said, as I flew along beside him. "You will come to know this place better as you get older, Duane," he said, as we flew around the island many times. I didn't know what he meant, so I just went along with what he said. I was mainly interested in everything around me. As I looked far and wide, I could see in all directions, and as far as I wanted to see. I could see way out to sea, and then down along the shoreline, and back into the jungle areas that covered so much of the land. I was just about to ask him his name when all of a sudden I heard a loud noise. It was a siren from a police car, bringing me back to my body in the car with my mum. Poof! I was back. Scene 5. I immediately popped back into my outer life from my wonderful experience with my dream world. When I became aware of the surroundings again, Mum was talking with some tall man in a uniform. What is going on? I thought, as I was trying to wake up. Then I heard the man say, "Did you know you were going 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, young lady?" Mum looked over at me with a little smile on her face, and then looked up at the policeman, who was standing very rigidly next to the car. "Oh boy, officer, I couldn't have possibly been driving that fast in this car. My legs can barely reach the pedals," she said in a real sweet voice that I really had never heard before. "Young lady," remarked the officer rather firmly, "I was right behind you for the last 5 miles, and at times you were going even faster." "Really, officer?" said Mum, very politely, as she slowly got out of the car and closed the door behind her. I watched as she walked around the car. Mum bent over and began to look over the car very closely, rubbing her hands on it, walking back and forth, as though she were looking to see if there were any flaws in the paint. I thought it was kind of funny, the way she was acting. But what did I know? I was just the kid. She was Mum, and she is bigger than me. I figured that everything was the way that it should be, and she knew what to do. "Miss, are you okay?" asked the officer as he watched her go through her motions around the car. "Of course I am, sir," she said as she stood upright. "I find it hard to believe this car could go that fast without the paint coming off." The policeman began to laugh. Actually, He laughed for several moments, as his mannerism changed, and he became very relaxed. "You are too much, young lady. I am just going to give you a warning this time. You and your son have a good day," he said, as he walked back to his car. Then he turned and said, "I will say one thing, young lady. You sure have courage. You just made my day." And with that, he tipped his hat to Mum and was on his way. This was a funny time in my life, and I really didn't understand what was taking place. But later on I would. When I grew older, I would reflect back to that moment, and other ones like it. It wasn't so much that Mum got out of the ticket, but that she showed real bravery in the face of danger. That's how I looked at the incident when I began to understand better. And then off we went, speeding down the road again. It seemed to me that she was driving even faster than she did before. She seemed to know what she was doing, being her own style of risk-taker. As we were travelling through the various towns and cities, Mum was telling me about what she had been doing while she was in California. She said she liked going to the beach and swimming in the ocean the best. She said she met a lot of new friends that liked to have fun and play at the beach. "You swam in the ocean, Mum?" I asked, rather excited, looking at her with a big grin on my face and wanting to hear more. "I sure did, sweetie. It was great. The water was cold at times, but what a thrill," she said, looking at me with a youthful grin.